Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mugwump Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land. Over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Photon bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley, this is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start.
Not so long ago, in the mysterious land of Toronto, Canada.
Okay, let's start with Launchpad McQuack.
That's not the actual title of the song.
Hello and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. I am your host, Gideon G-Man Graves, indie music producer of the Millennium. And I've got the members of the indie garage band Sex Bob-Omb joining me this week. Please welcome the smoking hot redhead on the drums, JP Peach. Hello.
Hey.
And our very own Steven Stills. He's the talent, John Wright. How's it going, John?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm great. And everyone's favorite slacker who is trying to defeat the 7 evil exes and date Ramona Flowers, Jeff Johnson. How's it going, Jeff?
Dating you cocky cock. I am happy to be here.
And we're off. All right.
All right. Awesome. I think I was too energetic to be my character, but whatever.
I love that character, though.
I do too.
Scott, if your life had a face, I would punch it.
Yeah. Wait, what?
In case you didn't pick up on the subtle hints, we are discussing the comic book adaptation from 2010, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Hey, what's up? I'll leave you alone forever now. You know this one girl with hair like this?
Yes, that's Ramona Flowers.
She's out of your league.
You know her? Tell me now.
She just moved here, got a job at Amazon.
I have to order something really cool.
Scott, are you waiting for the package you just ordered?
Maybe.
Scott Pilgrim?
Hi, I was thinking about asking you out, but then I realized how stupid that would be.
That's okay. You just need to sign for this, all right?
So do you want to go out sometime?
If I say yes, will you sign for your damn package?
So yeah, 8 o'clock? Come to this Battle of the Bands thing.
You have a band?
Yeah, we're terrible.
Mr. Pilgrim! I'm Ramona's first evil ex-boyfriend.
What?
Wait, we're fighting over Ramona?
Didn't you get my email explaining the situation?
I skimmed it. What was that all about?
If we're gonna date, you may have to defeat my 7 evil exes.
So what you're saying is we are dating?
I guess.
Does that mean we can make out?
Sure.
Scott Pilgrim! Prepare to feel the wrath of the League of Evil Exes.
Ramona dated twins.
At the same time? If you want something bad, you have to fight for it. Step up your game, Scott.
Combo!
Break out the L word.
Lesbian?
The other L word.
Lesbians?
What are you doing?
Getting a life.
You want to fight me for her? Why on earth would you want to do that?
Because I'm in love with her.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Maybe next time we don't date the girl with 11 evil ex-boyfriends.
7.
Oh, that's not that bad.
So, some opening thoughts. Now, I believe, JP, this was actually your first time watching it for the podcast. Is that right?
Yes.
And what did you think?
Okay, so I have lots of thoughts that we'll get into later, but I actually was from a filmmaking standpoint, was just kind of in awe of what it took to even get this film made. And so I actually borrowed the Blu-ray from a friend to watch all the behind the scenes. See, yeah.
Yes.
And Dayton is holding that up right now.
Yes, I
am. Because I work in the business, but I've never really worked on anything that's, effects heavy. And so I was kind of fascinated about that. And so the things that I got out of those documentaries that I thought was like, oh, I can't believe they did this. Of course, they had $65 million, whatever, plus $1 million. So, but like the actors had to come in 2 whole months in advance of filming to start doing strength training and fight choreography. That's a long time for actors to have to come in like before filming starts. So that kind of amazed me. And then all the tests that they had to do to see like what things worked best, like how to punch a hole in a wall, like what materials to build the sets with, so the holes punch through right, and lighting grid collapses and all that stuff. So I kind of geeked out about that kind of seeing that kind of stuff. So that amazed me, and that fun fact. That Goodwill store, they actually filmed in the real Goodwill store there, but they made the art department clear out every single piece of clothing in that store and bring in clothing that matched the color palette of the film. And so my heart broke for those art people that had to deal with that, because that was a big store. There's several scenes in there. So there's that. And then the last thing is kind of the video game references. I would really appreciated that.
Yes.
They were to a level where someone who didn't get much past Qbert could understand. And so I appreciated that. And the fact that young Neil had what looked like a Nintendo DS.
Yep.
Is that what he has?
Yes, it sure was.
At the game. Okay. Because my sister had given me one years ago and I still had it. And so I pulled that out. Still can't figure it out, but I tried. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I just love when she asks, "What do you play?" He goes, "Zelda, Tetris."
Yeah,
that's a big question.
I know it is. And there's a Zelda cartridge in this. What my sister gave me. I tried, but I couldn't figure out how to like get it to move along. It seemed to be a lot of dialogue from the characters without much action on that Nintendo DS. But and I'm curious, I don't know if any of you guys have kids that have watched this. Are they into it? Because the video game stuff's so kind of dated.
Well, I think it's dated, but at the same time, I think anybody that plays video games understands the whole leveling up and fighting games with the verses. We've tried to get our daughter to watch it because of the people that's in it, like Chris Evans, Brie Larson, and whatever, and Aubrey Plaza. She loves her, so she's gotten halfway through it a couple times. She just is one of those people that she gets bored with something after like 45 minutes and has to go back to it. So, but she got all the video game references that she understood. She has a Nintendo. She's had a DS, a 3DS, and we're very gamer friendly in this house. So that she got.
Right. And, and the effects hold up even all these years later, but I just didn't know if like the gaming part of it, if that turned kids off or not, if they couldn't get into it or not, but just curious about that.
All right, Jeff, opening thoughts on Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
It's like the tagline for the poster says, this is an epic of epicness. I can't say enough good things about it, Dayton. And I don't know if I did back when we did I know you had me on a while ago for Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho, and we kind of talked about his filmography. This is my favorite of his. Mine too. Of his body of work. Mine too. Absolutely love this movie. It's fun.
Yep. Yeah, actually, so this is the third Edgar Wright movie we've covered on the pod. So because we also did Shaun of the Dead with John and JD. So yes. Yeah. All right, John. Opening thoughts.
Oh boy. Okay, I gotta qualify this by saying I don't think this is a bad movie. There's a lot that I like about it. There's also a lot that one big thing that I don't like about it, and we'll get to that. When I initially saw this, didn't speak to me. It wasn't for me. And on rewatching, yeah, there's some stuff that I like a lot about it. I love the editing. I love the video game references. The fight scenes are great, because I'm a big Jackie Chan guy and they trained with a Jackie Chan stunt team. There's a lot to like about it. Overall, it's a really good movie. But it's not. I'm probably in the minority here, and that's fine. I'm probably going to get beat up for the however long this recording session takes, and that's fine too. But I'm the guy that, as much as I like it, there's still some stuff about it that just doesn't work for me. And that's more so in some of the characters, I think, than the overall movie. But that being said, on my rewatches, I did enjoy it a lot more than I initially enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. I'll be interested to hear your complaints. So for me, I remember renting this as soon as it hit video, and I fell in love with this movie within the first 10 or 15 minutes. Just from the 8-bit Universal opening, that sucked me in. The ridiculous but awesome fight scenes, and the witty dialogue, the fun characters. I remember right after the Matthew Patel fight, I turned to Mandy, my wife, and said, I love this movie. And I have ever since. I can't. In fact, I've bought it twice. I bought the DVD, a used version of the DVD, and I upgraded to the Blu-ray because of all the fun extra stuff. So I love this movie.
So, what can I get you? Is there anywhere you don't work? They're called jobs, something a ball like you wouldn't know anything about. And by the way, I can't believe you asked Ramona out after I specifically told you not to do that. How are you doing that with your mouth? Never mind how I'm doing it. What do you have to say for yourself? Can I get a caramel macchiato? You know what? Maybe it's high time you took a look in the mirror before you wreak havoc on another girl. Me? Wreak havoc? And speaking of which, I hear the girl that kicked your heart in the ass is walking the streets of Toronto again. So I can just get my coffee over here?
All right. JP, why don't you give us a little bit of history on our director, Edgar Wright?
Okay. I said this was short, but it's JP short, so you may have to edit this now. Okay. Okay, so Edgar Wright was born in Somerset, England, to two art professors. And so growing up in an artistic family, he became very comfortable illustrating and animating what he envisioned in his head. And at age 10, he saw An American Werewolf in London. That made my heart warm when I saw that, and became fascinated by movies that aren't just one thing. That film is a gory horror movie. It's a comedy. It has sympathetic characters, and it also has that, 80s soundtrack, 80s music, a soundtrack thing going on. And so he was very influenced by that. And as a young teenager, he started making short films and won a film contest for an animated documentary called I Want to Get Into the Movies, which was about the lack of wheelchair access at theaters. I thought that was kind of cool.
Interesting.
That he chose that as his subject matter. Then, inspired by seeing the success of quirky independent movies like the Coen brothers' Raising Arizona and Sam Raimi's Evil Dead films, he started making what I'm calling genre homage films, like Dead Right, which was the working title of Dirty Harry. So he kind of made a spoof of Dirty Harry, because he felt like these directors, and this was his quote, were having a blast at playing with the possibilities of what you could get away with in film. I like that kind of idea of what you can get away with, like you're being a bit mischievous when you're making a movie. And at age 20, he directed A Fistful of Fingers, and that won a British film competition and brought him some actual national attention in Britain. He then got a gig. So he's 20. Think about this. He got a gig directing the television sketch comedy Mash and Peas. Then that led to the directing of Asylum, a sitcom where he met Simon Pegg and Jessica Hines. And they would obviously go on to create some things. One was being the show Spaced, and that gained a cult following in the UK.
Right.
I was wondering how they got the money to make Shaun of the Dead. Well, that's how they kind of they got popular with that stuff. So they made Shaun of the Dead, and that's kind of where the U.S. audience found him. But even though he kind of found his, niche making these genre homage films, he makes sure there's a larger message at the core of the films. For example, in Shaun of the Dead, it isn't really, in his view, it isn't really a zombie film. It's a film about overcoming complacency and becoming a functioning adult, finally, like maturing. Something I found surprising is that when Edgar Wright is researching, a screenwriting situation or directing, he watches a lot of movies to get his inspiration. I would think he wouldn't want to be that influenced, but he does. He loves that. And so for Scott Pilgrim, he watched a lot of teen films and looked for examples of dialogue that could work in an action movie as well as a teen film. And he also referenced the 1968 film Danger Diabolik, apparently, which was featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000 as an inspiration. And as a director, he's very prepared. Before filming, he's already got an animated storyboard created, and he rehearses complicated scenes in advance. He places a lot of importance on scene transitions, incorporating those fun wipes and whip pans into his storyboard process. Like, he already knows what those are going to be in advance. But he doesn't consider himself a perfectionist, which I find funny.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And if you want, I could tell you a funny story where I can relate to wanting the director to be prepared, because I worked with a director who was not prepared, and I had to step in and direct. And
all right.
He wasn't happy with me, but anyway, so I appreciate a director who's prepared. As a child growing up in the 80s, music played an important role for him. And that was especially true when he made the movie Baby Driver. He had all the music pre-selected and pre-cleared licensing wise, because he was not going to shoot a scene unless he knew what music was going to be behind that, that footage. And actually, that Baby Driver ended up being the movie he did when he backed out of Marvel's Ant-Man. He was attached to that. He had been working on that for years, had the script. 2 months before they started shooting, Marvel rewrote his script. And he was like, I've made my name as writer-director, and that's what I want to do. And so he backed out 2 months before filming and went on to do Babe Driver.
I would love to see that Ant-Man movie. I really would have loved to see his version.
Yeah, I would love to even read the script to see what he was going to do, because I think that would be interesting. But anyway, IMDb shows he has 2 projects in development currently, and that's The Chain and The Running Man.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I've got.
I'm assuming The Running Man is the Stephen King story he's updating.
I think so. I would think that would have to be that. So
I just hope it's better than the original.
Yes, exactly. And it's got to be with it.
I'm just saying with his skills, his visual skills and storytelling, it's got to be better, because otherwise, why do it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair, because I thought you were taking a shot at Arnold's awesome version. So
it's that Running Man is what it is. It's a fun movie, but I would love to see Edgar Wright take a hold of that and make it something else, because there'd be more to it than what's there now. But that's fine. It was an 80s action movie. That's fine. We got what we got, and that's cool. It's fun. Yeah. But anyway.
And I hope it's not a ripoff. Like, I just watched the last Total Recall that had Colin Farrell in it, and it's just a ripoff of Blade Runner. Like, all the sets there, I was like, that's how you re-envision Total Recall? Like, you just ripped off Blade Runner? I don't know. It was odd.
Like I said, don't remake it if you can't make it better.
Exactly.
Just saying. Okay. All right. Thank you, JP.
You're welcome.
All right, John, some brief production history on the movie, please.
Oh, brief production history is, as we've stated, Scott Pilgrim versus the World is based on the comic books written by Brian Lee O'Malley. After O'Malley had completed the first volume of Scott Pilgrim, his publisher, Oni Press, contacted a producer and started proposing a film adaptation. O'Malley wasn't originally, he had some mixed feelings about this. He's like, they're just going to give it to some guy I hate. I don't want to see this. But on the other hand, I'm starving. I need the money. Do this, please. So they, ended up in the hands of Universal. Universal contacted Edgar Wright. Wright had just finished Shaun of the Dead and agreed to adapt this. Interesting things about Wright in regards to this in the production of the movie is he moved to Toronto a year before production began. And all of the locations featured in the movie and in the comic book are actually real locations. And they either shot there or recreated them.
Right. Yeah. His childhood home, Scott's childhood home. Like I was reading the source material and I looked at it and I'm like, wait, I brought up the image of the movie. I'm like, it's the exact same house. I mean, it's like, oh my God.
O'Malley was very involved. And I think that's very cool because so often the creators are not involved when it gets to this stage. He even had inputs in the casting. Wright had said he wanted to cast Michael Cera from the get-go because while he was working on Hot Fuzz, he was watching a lot of Arrested Development. Yeah. And Universal was actually cool with that because Cera had just come off of $200 million projects. So they're like, great, go ahead. They never gave him any blowback on anybody he cast. Most of the cast are up and comers. They're names that are big now. They weren't big at the time, but the studio showed faith in what Wright had to do. And I will say, despite some of my reservations with this film, the cast is outstanding in this.
Yes, it is.
It really is. Going on a little bit farther, setting, like I said, takes place in Toronto. They used locations. If they didn't have the actual location, they recreated. The bar was rebuilt on a set. But basically, I guess that's pretty much it. Let's try to keep it kind of short. There is a lot out there on this, and we could spend a good hour just talking about that. And there's other stuff to get to.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Real quick, this movie was released August 13th of 2010. As we mentioned, some of the actors includes Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Kieran Culkin, Anna Kendrick, Alison Pill, Chris Evans, Jason Schwartzman, Aubrey Plaza, Brie Larson, Brandon Routh, and Mark Webber as Steven Stills. He's the talent. Runtime of 112 minutes, a budget between $60 and $85 million. Box office was only $49 million. What a crime. Anyway, so a couple of fun facts I found. This was some interesting things I wanted to share. Edgar Wright has stated the movie was done in the style of a musical, but instead of characters breaking into song and dance, they break into a fight. The battle between Scott Pilgrim and Matthew Patel is done in the style of a Bollywood fight scene. I'm like, oh yeah, that tracks. Ripped directly from the source material, Mary Elizabeth Winstead memorized all of the kinds of tea that her character rambles. The crew members kept offering her just to read it from a piece of paper, but she insisted on learning all of them herself.
What kind of tea do you want?
There's more than one kind?
We have blueberry, raspberry, ginseng, sleepy time, green tea with lemon and honey, liver disaster, ginger with honey, ginger without honey, vanilla almond, white truffle, blueberry chamomile, vanilla walnut, constant comment, and Earl Grey.
Did you make some of those up?
That's impressive. But yes, all of those are directly from the source material. The four cast members made up of Sex Bob-Omb spent several weeks learning how to play together as a band. Mark Webber, Alison Pill, and Johnny Simmons, all had to learn their instruments from scratch, while Michael Cera had to quote unquote dumb down his bass playing in order to not outshine the rest of the bandmates. I thought that was interesting. So apparently he knows how to play bass. I did not know that. That's awesome. Anybody else have any fun facts they care to share?
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the super dark original ending of this film that I didn't know about until recently.
Okay.
Okay. So Dayton, I figured you probably knew this, but
I know there was they shot multiple endings. Yeah.
There's a couple multiple endings.
Yes.
I'm talking about the serial killer ending.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, yeah. I wasn't completely familiar with this one, so go ahead.
Yeah. So apparently the original dark ending is that Scott didn't defeat her evil exes. He murdered 7 unfortunate victims. And originally the movie was supposed to end with like a CNN type breaking news thing where they capture him and, you find out that he went on a rage and kills all her exes, because he wants her for himself. So, But Edgar Wright said, in the end, it was a little too dark. It changed
Yeah.
the tone drastically, and we decided to go with something different.
Yeah, that one I wasn't too familiar with. I knew how the DVD has some deleted scenes, and I knew in the source material he ends up with knives, and in they did shoot that alternate scene of him ending up with knives as well. So interesting. But yeah, I was not familiar with the the serial killer aspect, because that's a completely different movie, and I'm not so sure I like it as much, to be really honest.
Yeah,
So.
I think what he was initially going for there was kind of like a Fight Club or an American Psycho type of vibe, where you're inside this person's head and their twisted reality, where he thinks he's fighting like video game style battles. He's actually brutally murdering people. So interesting concept, but I'm glad they went the way they did.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's funny, in the source material he actually is known for being a fighter, and actually prepares, like with his with Lucas Lee, he actually watches his movies and reads about him, so he learns how to fight him. So that's a little different too. It was interesting, but I kind of like how it worked out in the movie. But here is a little bit of information on the source material. As John mentioned, it's a series of graphic novels written by Brian Lee O'Malley, released in a black and white digest form from 2004 through 2010. Publishers Weekly ranked the third volume, Scott Pilgrim and the Infinite Sadness, as one of the best comic books of 2006 in a critics poll. Scott Pilgrim was ranked number 85 on Wizard Magazine's 2008 list of the 200 greatest comic book characters of all time. In 2005, O'Malley won the Doug Wright Award for Best Emerging Talent for the first volume of Scott Pilgrim, and was nominated for 3 Harvey Awards: Best New Talent, Best Cartoonist, and Graphic Album of Original Work. In 2007, O'Malley won the Harvey Award. The series is also awarded a spot in the Entertainment Weekly's 2007 A-list. In 2010, O'Malley won his first Eisner Award for the Best Humor Publication category for Scott Pilgrim vs. the Universe. Now, this I thought was kind of fun. The original concept for Scott Pilgrim is based around 2 ideas. The first was the idea that what if, after playing street fighting games, someone confronted you and you actually had the ability to fight like a Street Fighter character. The second concept was it came about when Brian Lee O'Malley was dating his future wife, Hope Larson. When he learned that she had dated 3 different guys named Matthew, O'Malley came up with the idea of a League of Matthews. This idea developed into the League of Evil X's. Matthew Patel is the only evil X who kept the name Matthew. I love the inspiration on that. And also, one thing that really stuck out to me, as far as adaptations go, it's shocking how much they really pulled from the books into the movie. Like, there's some scenes that are word for word the same, and it cracks me up. You don't see that very often with adaptations like this, but they did it's trip. I'm reading it and I'm going, that's the same freaking scene. That's awesome. So anyway, enough of that.
The whole 17-year-old thing, don't tell too many people.
Hey, you know me.
I mean, don't tell my sister.
You know me.
Who are you texting?
17 years old, scandal.
That's not true. Who told you?
Wallace, duh.
That gossipy bitch.
You know me.
Wallace!
Okay, so let's move on to what we like about the movie. JP, what you like?
Okay, there's 3 things. Sorry.
That's fine. Trust me, I have a lot, but I'm going to let you guys talk.
Okay, good. Maybe I'll cover some of yours too. Okay. Obviously, the shooting style.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. I love that. It's a mixture of like blue screen effects and practical effects. And like I said earlier, Wright is known for placing, a lot of importance on scene transitions. And for Scott Pilgrim, he had at least one movable set created, so a transition could happen in real time. And I know if you've seen if you've seen the behind the scenes, you know what I'm talking about, which is, Scott leaves his or Wallace's living room, goes into the bathroom, closes the door, and then when he leaves, he's in a school hallway with lockers. Right. Completely different. And
yeah, it's a great shot.
Yeah, and so they actually put those lockers in that hallway on wheels. And so when he shuts the door to go into the bathroom, they wheel that in, so it's actually there when he exits the bathroom. And so I thought that was very, very cool. So they could shoot that in one take. I also like the overall quirkiness of the humor, both in dialogue and editing. And absolutely love toward the end when Scott decides he's not going to give up, that he's going to go fight. You get all these really quick, like superhero edits, and then everything stops, and you get a close up of him tying his shoelace, which seems incredibly slow in comparison. And I love that kind of visual humor because, like,
Right.
no matter what, he's a geek. I mean, he's basically a geek,
Oh, yes, he is.
And that just gives that some credence there. And I like the overall soundtrack. And I kept asking myself why I really liked the Clash at Demon Head performance after thinking all the other like band songs were just kind of comedic spoofs through it. And so then I realized it's actually Metric. It's a Metric song, Black Sheep. And I had just seen Metric a few months ago here in Nashville. So I was like, that's why my head started grooving. This doesn't seem like a spoof song. What is this? Well, that's why. So those were the things I loved about it.
Awesome. All right. John, what do you like about it?
Oh, I do like the feel of the movie. It's, as JP said, it's very quirky, and quirky is my wheelhouse nowadays. As I stated earlier, I do like the casting in this movie. A lot of the fight scenes, grew up every Sunday afternoon watching Kung Fu theater. These fight scenes speak to me hard, and I'm a huge Jackie Chan, and I love the fact that they trained, so extensively with his stunt team. So some of the special effects are great. I'm a huge Anna Kendrick fan, and I feel that she is critically underused in this film, but her parts are so great. Much like Kieran Culkin, I love that character.
Oh, yes.
That, kick him in the balls. And it goes back to drinking. I mean, this guy, he's such a douche, but he's a lovable douche, You know
me.
Yeah, exactly. So, those are the things that really, really caught my eye. The filming, the action scenes, I can't speak enough about them. They are very, very cool. And I love the fact that every fight is just slightly different than the last one.
Yeah.
You get that feeling of building up to the big boss that you would in the video game. So I think that was all really, really well done.
Yeah, I like how every time they have to be defeated differently. That it's only Patel he actually defeats on his own. Everybody after the fact, he defeats with some kind of help. But that's still interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Jeff, what do you like about Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
I mean, I could echo a lot of what JP and John have already said, because the music is incredible. Speaking of the Metric song, Black Sheep, I actually prefer the Brie Larson version as opposed to the real one. Because I remember the first time I got the soundtrack, I heard it and I could distinctly hear that wasn't the same singer. And I was like, well, this is good, but it's not what I heard. The music, like looking at the soundtrack, I kind of went down a rabbit hole because I didn't know bands like Plumtree and some of these other ones. I knew you get some Stones, you get some Beck, so I really liked digging into the other tracks that I liked. I just never knew who they were. This is a great cast. As John was talking about, you couldn't get this movie made today with this kind of cast because. No. This is Aubrey Plaza and Anna Kendrick and, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like Jason Schwartzman. There's so many, Kieran Culkin. There's all this amazing talent that you could, they were up and coming. They were right there before they were about to blow up. Even people like Brie Larson. Brie Larson wasn't Brie Larson. You could argue that Chris Evans, he was known, but he wasn't a megastar when Scott Pilgrim comes out. So I love the cast. I love the music. And what makes this so rewatchable is just the mashup of genres that's going on here. Because, sometimes it's like, are you watching a video game movie? Are you watching a superhero movie? Are you watching a fantasy? Are you watching a comedy? The truth is you're watching all of it. The answer is yes, no matter what it is. So that's what I love about it.
Yep. So I agree with everything you just said. They turned Michael Cera into an action hero. I mean, that in of itself is an achievement, and then just the little things that they made sure to pull from the books, like everything from Scott's t-shirts. Like, he's wearing the Plum Tree t-shirt. He has a bunch of those came right from the books. The scene one of the many scenes in the Goodwill when he's sitting on the sofa that says "Do not sit." That panel comes right. The panel comes right from the comics. So that little details like that are a lot of fun. Some of the ongoing gags, his hair, and the hat gag over and over again. I just adore that. It's so much fun. You guys have already mentioned the editing, the production value on this movie is just unreal. I mean, Jeff and I have talked about it like we talked about last night in Soho. Edgar Wright has a great eye for stuff. Hey, Last Night in Soho is one of the most beautiful movies I've seen in the last, 5 years easily. And this one has its own look, its own feel, and it doesn't feel like anything else. And I think that's one of the reasons I really, really love it, because like Jeff said, well, what is it? It's all of those things and more. It's so much fun and it's so refreshing. It's so different. And that's why it bums me out that it only made $50 million at the box office, because, some people just weren't ready for it. I think it might do better now, but like you said, you couldn't make it with that cast because they're all cost way too much now. So anyway, but yeah, this movie never gets old for me. I rewatch it. In fact, getting ready for this, I probably watched it 5 times. So it's just a lot of fun, and it's something that people need to check out, because when we hear all the time, well, Hollywood's out of ideas, I'm like, no, you just haven't been watching the right stuff. And this is a great example of something you need to watch and enjoy immensely, because it is a lot of fun for sure.
We all know you're a total lady killer wannabe jerky jerk.
It's completely untrue.
That time with Lisa?
That was a misunderstanding.
That time with Holly?
That wasn't what it looked like.
That time you dumped Kim?
Okay, me and Kim are all good now, all right?
All right. So I'm really curious about where this is going to go. So John, you get to go first. What don't you like about the movie?
What don't I like about the movie is ultimately, and I'll caution, this is my opinion only, the movie fails at fully redeeming Scott. At the end of the movie, he's confronted with Nega Scott. And you're led to believe that there's going to be a fight. There's no fight. There's some sort of conversation that happens off screen, and the two agree to meet for dinner later. Scott's redemption was boiled down to just some back and forth with Ramona and knives. And I don't think that served that character enough justice.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with that.
The
only reason I say it is because he does apologize to oh my goodness,
Knives.
Knives and Kim. He apologizes to Kim as well. Like,
right,
but they had that whole setup as, what about Lisa? That was different. What about, well, me and Kim are good. And he looks over at her. She's just like, giving a death glare. I think he kind of has that realization. He apologizes to everybody. But the whole, and he pulls out, was it self-respect? When he pulls the sword out.
Scott earns the power of self-respect.
So it's not as obvious. You're right, but he's a slacker. Let's be honest. He's still a slacker.
And I get that, but as I understand it in the books, he plans to kill Nega Scott and is eventually convinced that, no, you can't kill this guy. He's a part of you, and he learns to absorb that. And I think some sort of, quick scene or, something that involved that would just serve the character a little bit better. Again, this is just my opinion.
No, it's fine. I get you. All right. Is that it?
For the most,
I'll wait for more than that. So,
I mean, no, I mean, I sound like a negative guy, and I'm not really. I did really enjoy this film. It's just that's my one big flaw with it. Having seen that, and having seen that this character, we're stuck with this character for the entire time, who is essentially doing the same thing that was done to him his entire life. It kind of feels like, and I needed a little bit more redemption on his part. I needed him to confront himself, and I just don't feel like it was done as well as it could have been.
All right. That's fair. All right, JP, something you don't like.
Oh, dang. Why did you give me another movie where an adult man is dating a high schooler?
Well, I had a problem with that too.
Yeah, okay, but
you gotta hear it. You gotta hear it.
No, go ahead.
All right.
Let me have it.
All right. And then I'll see if you want to respond to it, because, okay, for the listeners, I was a foster parent to abuse teen girls for several years. So the way Knives is treated and basically abused in this movie, and the way she reacts to it is very disturbing to me. And just kind of how they're all kind of, well, not all, but some of the male characters are very flippant about it. The first time Scott mentions that he's dating a high schooler, of the first time, the immediate thing is young Neil says, "Have you slept with her yet?" Like, that is where that goes. That's wrong. That line should have been cut out. It didn't need to be there. And it pissed me off. Okay. And you can do that little bleep thing if you can't have any curse words on this that they do with in the movie on there.
This was so funny.
I know. But anyway, so here's, and I'm going to give you an example of why this kind of pissed me off. The first time we see Knives, Scott immediately says, "Promise you'll be good," which is an adult man being controlling and creating self-doubt in a child. And then Steven shuts the door right in her face. Oh my God, I'm so mad. And then we never see Scott ever care enough to remember when he's supposed to meet up for her with Knives for their outings. He never cares, gives us enough of a shit to be there.
Well, to be fair, I think that goes with anybody that he's dated. I don't think that's just directly to Knives. I think that's just who he is. I think that's who he is.
Okay. Well,
because he has a laundry list of people that he's apparently upset.
Okay.
So.
He makes her pay for their like outings. And later Steven says right in front of her, he hopes eventually cool kids will want to wear their t-shirt, the band's t-shirt. I mean, right in front of her, just basically slamming her. Right. Basically the guys in this film are fucking awful to her. And, and through 99% of the movie, they're not caring how she's being treated at all. But I will say this. The film tries to do some things correctly. It's pretty immediate that Kim, Wallace, Stacy, and Julie are all condemning his relationship with a high schooler as wrong. And Wallace even, grabs her by the arms and tells her she's too good for Scott, and Scott admits that he, in one scene that he doesn't understand why he's even with Knives and never, and he never tries to take advantage of her sexually. So I understand he's messed up too, and trying to, be in a safe relationship where he thinks there's no way he can get hurt, at all. So I understand that. And I do see the value in Ramona being shown as kind of this confident woman who stands up for herself when she's not being controlled by microchip people. And when Knives begins to like mimic Ramona, it's initially out of a lack of confidence. But she ultimately learns how to be a confident woman by mimicking Ramona in some way. So she's actually learning through the process and becomes, a more confident version of herself. But that's what we were talking about earlier. That's not the original ending that was shot. They were going to keep Scott with this underage girl. And that I would have,
yeah.
I would have had
the funny thing is, like I said, that was also in the book too. So I don't, I don't, yeah.
But it didn't test well. They had that, they showed it with that version and it didn't test well with audiences. And I'm like, could it be that, she's a child? He's an adult and he always treated her like shit. Like he always treated her like shit. Like, duh. I would have been so mad if she had gone back to him and not like found her voice and like found her confidence. I would have been so mad. So I'm really glad they changed the ending, because I basically would have had to boycott this podcast if the original ending had been there. So anyway, all right, off the soapbox, on to you. Okay.
Well, and because actually I was having this conversation with my daughter because she was watching it while I was watching it, and she keeps going, "Are they calling her his fake girlfriend, fake high school girlfriend?" And I was like, yeah. So she's like, so she's not real? I said, no, wait a minute. See, it's fake because they're not really dating. He's he's trying to get over his heartbroken and it's safe. He's just and and that's, like I said, nothing actually happens. In fact, he's not the one that actually instigates the kissing. She does. She's the one that does the attack hug. So it's to him, he's barricading himself and he knows it's safe. So yeah, but like I said, to your point, I think he's just apparently he's not good with girls anyway, because even Aubrey Plaza's character says, rattles off all these people and basically calls him out for treating all the girls he's dated badly. So to me, it was just one more in his whole thing, which is why at the end, he has that realization that, well, I have been kind of a shit. So, and maybe not enough, to John's point. So either way, I do see what you mean. And to me, I just never really, I didn't see it as harshly as you do, but
because you're not a woman.
No, I'm not.
No, it bothered me too.
Yeah.
The fact that he was involved with an underage girl bothered me as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see if you go back and watch that first scene where she shows up to see the band play, when he, tells her, make sure you're good, you have to be good. The actress does a brilliant job of showing the self-doubt that an older person can create in someone who's not prepared to be in the world of adults yet. And it's harsh. It's harsh. And then she gets the door slammed in her face.
I think Steven would have done that to anybody, to be honest, because he reacts all over the place, to be honest. I mean, he freaks out and shows.
But still, I'm just the fact that I'm just going to say I am very, very tired of the abuse of women being normalized as like, oh well, this, oh well that. No, it's wrong. Pissed me off. So there you go.
Okay then. All right, Jeff, what doesn't work for you?
When we started, just based off of John's initial thoughts, I'd planned to cede my entire dislike time to him just because I wanted to hear more from him. But I would ask this question to John, because I know he's an amazing artist. And with your dislikes, though, John, is this a situation where you've read the source material and you've seen the movie, and is that part of the disconnect? Or
I have not read the source material. So I read that, how they handled the conflict with Nega Scott in the source material online. I read an article that discussed that. But I was watching this, and as usual, the first time I was watching this recently, my attention was elsewhere at times too, because I'm working on some art, and I see Nega Scott float down, and I turn away for a second to do an outline on something. I turn back and they're walking out. I'm like, what the fuck? Where was the fight? Where is this conflict at? And I'm like, did I miss something? And I was watching it free. It was on a free app. It was on, I think, Freevee. Yeah. So there's commercials in there. And I'm like, did I miss something during the commercials? So I watched it again. I'm like, this just, I don't know. That part of it, and a lot of it probably goes back to what JP said about how Scott treated people. I feel like they just undersold his redemption. And that's when the story is all about redemption, and redemption takes place for the most part off screen, that just didn't work for me, But again, I do enjoy this movie. I'm not going to sit here and slam it and tell people to avoid this movie based on that alone. So, God forbid, I'm lucky enough to have a movie made out of what I'm trying to write and put together 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and they do something like that to it, because there'll be somebody out there that does the exact same thing. So, and they'll have that what the fuck moment. And
the only thing that bothered me was they do use the R slur one time, and that is ripped directly from the book too, but it's one of those things that they could have done without that. So, but now, I have more to think about courtesy of JP. So,
Yes,
but,
thank you. Thank you, everyone. And, please think a little more about it.
But yeah, it's to me, it's just a lot of fun. And it's hard for me to really find a lot of things wrong with it because it's one of the things I'd enjoy it too much. But anyway.
If you want something bad, you have to fight for it. Step up your game, Scott. Break out the L word.
Lesbian?
The other L word.
Lesbians?
It's love, Scott. I wasn't trying to trick you. Hey, buddy, look. If she really is the girl of your dreams, then you have to let her know. You have to overcome any and all obstacles that lie in your path. You can do it. Be with her. It's your destiny. Plus, I need you to move out. What? Yeah, I'm kind of banking on her calling you back so I don't have to evict you and feel all guilty and shit.
Okay, let's move on to some favorite stuff. So, JP, do you have a favorite scene?
I do. It's the vegan police. Ever since Deep Blue Sea, Thomas Jane just makes my heart smile whenever I see him. So when he came through that door as the vegan police, I was like, oh, yes.
What are you talking about?
You just drank half and half, baby.
Freeze! Vegan police! Vegan police!
Todd Ingram, you're under arrest for veganity violation. Code number 827. Imbibing a half and half.
It's Bullroar!
No vegan diet, no vegan powers!
But, it's only my first offense, so don't I get 3 strikes? I mean,
Take it. At 12:27 a.m. on February 1st, you knowingly ingested gelato.
Gelato isn't vegan.
It's milk and eggs, bitch.
So, so that I actually kind of have to. That's like because that's kind of a quick, well, I guess they're all kind of quick scenes in this movie. But that one in my runner up is the drunk Wallace scene when he stumbles in, he pitches the keys and they hit Scott face, and he stumbles and he falls down, and he still manages to text Stacy
when he's unconscious. Yes.
Yeah, when he's unconscious. So I found that quite amusing.
All right, Jeff, favorite scene.
Definitely be fight number 3 because, again, we lead it up, we open it up with that killer song by Metric. Love Brie Larson in the role playing Envy Adams, and just that tense moment on the couch where they're going back and forth, and it's like, here's 2 people that dated, and here's the people they're dating now, and everyone, no one likes anyone in that room, and the tension, is just bubbling up until Todd punches the highlights out of Knives Chow's hair. Just poor young Neil, he punched the highlights out of her hair. It's a great it's a great battle. Kind of changes things up because we, as you guys were talking about, like John said, like it's like playing a video game and you're going from level to level to get to the final boss, and sometimes the fights have to change. So I love it how it turns into a base battle. You get those cartoon D's just strumming away as Scott's like kind of pulling him into the fight. I love it. It's my favorite scene. And Brandon Routh is just perfect in it.
Yes.
The fact that this guy is going to be Superman or was Superman is just blows my mind. And then that scene, think about that scene. You've got Captain Marvel, you've got the Punisher, you've got you got all these great superhero roles, and they're just bouncing off each other. It's awesome. My favorite scene.
Chicken's not vegan.
Gelato's not vegan.
Yeah. Milk and eggs, bitch. Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's very funny. Never mind. Anyway, so my favorite scene actually is the entire sequence, the Battle of the Bands, with Crash and the boys. And from the time they walk into that venue, by the way, it's a toilet if you read the little caption. And all the way through, like everything that, Scott's thinking, and then when Steven Stills freaks out and it's like yelling at Scott, but you can barely hear him because of the music, and all that's just so funny. And then he realizes we have to play now and loud, and just, I don't know. And Kim's like, we are Sex Bob-Omb. I'm sorry. The whole friggin' thing is great. And then the ridiculous fight with Matthew Patel. And then, didn't you get my email? I skimmed it. And Wallace is like,
Yeah.
It's like, just everything is like, what do I do? And fight. I'm like, it's just such a, especially the first time watching it, I was just like, holy shit, this is awesome. So yeah, and then Crash the Boys disintegrate into flame, off stage. And I love it. It's
what makes that scene so great is Wallace's interaction with Crash and the Boys. And just the hate that the lead singer is spitting. This is for the guy in the upper row.
That won't shut up.
Yeah, it won't shut up. It's gonna hate you. I wish you'd die.
Right. It's like, is that girl a guy? Got a boy too? Yes, and she flips him off.
Yeah.
This little 8-year-old Asian girl flips him off. That's great, but it's not a race, guys.
Yeah. Wallace makes that scene for me.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, the fact that the title of that song is longer than the song itself makes me just laugh. I love it.
Yeah.
There actually was a third song called "The Audience Dies at the Last Song," and this is our last song. That's how they introduce it, and of course they cut it out, which is a bummer. But it's on the deleted scenes, and it's hilarious. But yeah, love that scene. All right, favorite characters. JP, who's your favorite character?
I'm wondering if this is going to be unanimous. Wallace, of course.
He's mine too.
He's the perfect juxtaposition to Scott. Wallace is confident. Nothing phases him. He tells Scott what he needs to hear, but then he's also seeing, giving Scott these really caring, loving pep talks. So you just love it. Like, you just love both sides of him. So any scene he was in, he stole, I feel like.
Yeah. Yes. When the other one guy walks out of the bathroom, he's like, "Hey, double standard," complain to Liberace's ghost.
Yeah. Don't quote the gay rule book to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the cool gay roommate is my favorite as well. John, was that yours too?
Yeah, but you didn't ask me what my favorite scene was.
Oh, damn it. So, John, do you have a favorite scene?
Because he thought you hated the whole thing.
No, I didn't.
Okay, John, so your favorite scene.
Obviously, there's the vegan police, which has been brought up multiple times, but I actually like the battle between the twins.
Okay, yeah, that was cool.
Mainly because I'm a huge kaiju guy, and I get, a two-headed serpent going off this big electronic gorilla, and just, I love they're walking in there like there's not enough exclamation points on that poster. Two bands at once? That can't happen.
Apparently it can.
And, that was great. I mean, another little thing that you pointed out that just recurred to me, fun facts. The stunt team that Chris Evans uses in the movie, that's his actual stunt team.
Yep.
I like stuff like, that was great too. That was the one battle that I felt was underwhelming.
I don't know. I loved it.
The resolution of it was a little underwhelming to me, but again, but yeah, favorite character to get back on track where we were, definitely Wallace, because Wallace is just, Scott, I'm gonna need my bed at night for sex and the rest of the week and the rest of the year. So you're gonna have to move.
Yeah. Pretty much every line he delivered was just perfect. So, all right, Jeff, favorite character?
I got to go against the grain here because my favorite character from the first time I've seen it to the last time I've seen it, it's always Lucas Lee. He's the fact that he comes out of his trailer and cracks his neck right to the beat of the Universal theme. It's perfect. And Lucas Lee is everything that the real Chris Evans Captain America is not.
Yes.
He's so conceited and he's so full of himself. He's got some great some great dialogue. I agree with John. It's a little underwhelming just because, you could argue that maybe Scott Pilgrim uses his wits to beat him on that one.
He does. He uses Lucas Lee's arrogance.
Yeah,
because there's girls in front of him. He has an audience that he can't back down.
He can't do it. Can you do a grind thingy? It's like, but Lucas Lee is such a fun character because he's the bad guy that you at least that I'm rooting for. Like I love him. I love when he's on the screen. I wish there was more of him. Chalk that up to my dislike category. I could have used some more Lucas Lee.
Yeah, are there any in the deleted scenes? I didn't watch the deleted.
No, there is no more Lucas Lee in the deleted scenes. No. Okay. There's more Nega Scott in the deleted scenes. There actually is. He pops up from time to time, but there's some other stuff that's in there that most of the deleted scenes were, you can tell, well, that's fine. They cut that. That's okay. But no, Lucas Lee just cracks me up. You're right. It's a great character. And I love how he knocks Scott down and he looks over at, Ramona, goes, how's it going? He seems nice. And then he goes,
not so much that he's doing it to get Ramona back. He just, he knows his role. He's one of the evil exes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love how Ramona keeps correcting him, evil exes. And every time he says evil ex-boyfriends, evil exes, so that's a great little subtle hint. So yeah, love it.
Are you in lesbian with it?
Yes. I said lesbian.
Yeah.
God, there's so much about this movie. Just makes me constantly laugh. Oh, it's too funny. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our podcast friends. And when we come back, we are going to give this movie a rating.
Hey, I'm Lauren.
And I'm John.
And we host the Beard Al Podcast, the podcast where we talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al.
And a lot of other things. We're funny.
Yeah, that's basically what I told him to say. Good job with your script.
Listened.
Yay! But no, seriously, we try and pair a beer with a Weird Al song and talk about both things and go where the conversation takes us. It's fun, I promise. You'll like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like talking about random things as well as, fine craft beers and some wonderful craft music.
Welcome to the All 80s Movies Podcast.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Jason. And this is the podcast where we talk about the blockbusters, the flops, and everything in between from one of the freshest decades for movies, the 1980s. So whether you're a brain, a jock, a valley girl, or a Jedi, we've got some 80s classics for you.
Do these movies stand the test of time? Are we discovering something new? Is there an 80s movie we are finally watching for the first time?
Join us each week as we dive into the cinematic nostalgia that inspired and influenced a generation. From the hits to the cult classics, we'll discuss our earliest memories, favorite scenes, fun facts, and our not-so-favorite movie moments too.
You can find the All 80s Movies Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Please subscribe and happy listening.
All right, we're back. And it's time to give this movie a rating. Your choices are Never Again, Stream It, Buy It Used, Buy It New, or 4K Blu-ray. JP, you're first.
I'm going to say stream it if they can't borrow the Blu-ray from you.
All right.
Because I will say you can see some of the delete, well, I would say behind the scenes stuff. If you're into that, you can find that on YouTube. So you don't technically have to have the Blu-ray, but those things are fun to watch.
Yeah, John.
I'm going to go with Stream It or Buy It Used. It just, like I said, it is a fun movie. But it's not one of my all-time favorites like it is yours.
All right, Jeff.
Hey, we're talking about Edgar Wright. So similar to my review of Last Night in Soho, give me the 4K Blu-ray, preferably in a steelbook.
Nice. So this is one of those movies that if you don't get it, that's a you problem, not a movie problem. So I'm going with the 4K Blu-ray because it's just so much fun going on in this movie. So yes, my highest rating. Anyway, moving on. So as always, it's a lot of fun talking movies, especially ridiculous and silly movies like this one with you guys. So as always, thank you, JP.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Sorry I shit all over one of your favorite movies.
That's quite all right. I'm kind of used to it. It's okay. And Jeff, why don't you tell people what's coming up on the Film By podcast?
Well, we actually have a fun little theme coming up here, talking about people that maybe are the worst tenants imaginable. So we're actually going to be talking about a film by John Schlagner, Pacific Heights. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Yes, I did. Michael Keaton.
And then, Michael Keaton playing the tenant that you don't want, unless we're talking about Alec Baldwin in Malice, because we'll also be talking about Harold Becker's film Malice with Nicole Kidman and Alec Baldwin.
Nice. Very cool. All right. So I'd like to take a minute to thank the listeners for stopping by and making us a part of your day. It means a lot that you care enough to listen to us. So thank you very much. It's awesome. If you want to reach out on social media, all of our social media information is in the show notes. We do have a Discord now. Join us and chat with us about TV, movies, video games, whatever. The link for that is in the show notes, as well as on Twitter and Facebook. Some things that are coming up in the near future. Just a heads up, over the next couple of months, our usual format will vary a little bit, but I am convinced that the quality is only going to get better. Lauren from the Beard Owl podcast and Mike Vermillion will be joining me as we continue our look at the music from 1976. We will be discussing Fly Like an Eagle from Steve Miller. Tim, Eric, and Disney John will be joining me as we discuss 2112 from Rush. And then John, Jeff, and Disney John will all be back, and we're going to journey into the Oasis with an episode on the book Ready Player One and also an episode on the movie Ready Player One. I am excited for both of those. Do yourself a favor, watch more movies, and remember, physical media is better than streaming. The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.
You want to fight me? For her?
No. I want to fight you for me.
Start earning the power of self-respect.